The MemoCut 051 is a thermo-expandable titanium nickel alloy spiral developed for long-term urethral stenting. It has a unique temperature-activated shape memory which makes it adapting itself to the host tissue. These properties make it easy to remove obstructed or migrated stents. MemoCut ureteric stents were first used in malignant strictures. They were well tolerated and they did not encrust. This encouraged us and others to use them in benign ureteric strictures in the long term. This avoids more invasive reconstructive surgery. Once deployed, the MemoCut keeps the stricture open. This avoids frequent stent changes and bladder irritation through the double-gauge stents. In the following video, we will show you MemoCut insertion, MemoCut reposition, MemoCut removal, 1-year follow-up, and also briefly touch on its use in transplanted kidneys.
The MemoCut 051 kit contains 2 units, the stent itself mounted on an introducer and the dilator sheet with the matching guide wire. For stent insertion, a standard cystoscopy is performed, the ureteric orifice is identified, and a standard ureteric catheter is inserted into the distal ureter for retrograde ureterography. The stricture's location and length is visualized, and this picture is frozen on a second X-ray monitor. A guide wire is passed through the stricture and left in place. Sometimes an initial glide wire must be replaced by a stiffer wire over a standard ureteric catheter. 2 metallic needles are used to mark the proximal and the distal ends of the stricture. Whilst the needles are placed and fixed, the ureterogram remains on the second monitor to provide the landmarks. The distance between the 2 needles is measured with a sterile measuring tape. Stent length should exceed this distance. Care should be taken to flush and wet all equipment prior to use. The dilator sheet is then slid under fluoroscopic control into the ureter over the guide wire, previously left behind and positioned well above the proximal needle marker. The guide wire is removed and the blue inner catheter unlocked and removed. The position of the dilator sheet well above the proximal needle is confirmed again. The MemoCut 051 is mounted on an insertion system of tubes and a 2-part protection cover with plastic straps around it. The cover is carefully cut with the blade provided away from the end of the stent. The stent is thus exposed. The stent is introduced through the dilator sheet and positioned at its tip above the proximal marker needle. 20 ml of 60 degrees hot water is ready to be aspirated. After removal of the innermost blue mandrel of the insertion system, the water is flushed through the end port until thermoextension of the proximal stent tip above the stricture can be observed. The most distal connector between the red and the blue ring is separated and the white inner tubing pulled out of the stent, which is thus detached from the insertion system. The final stent position is recorded with a plain X-ray. It may be necessary to adjust the stent position. As before, a contrast study confirms the patency of the migrated